How do chess experts handle this opening? Badly, as we're going to see. From the FIDE World Cup, we have Carlsen Erigaisi versus Pragnanda, two top players from India. And then in the second game we're going to look at, we have Magnus Carlsen versus Gukesh. Now, why is William complaining about the way top players are playing this opening? The C3 Sicilian is known for being drawish. Lots of pieces might come off, and then white is hoping for a draw. That's the reputation this opening gets. And with the white pieces, every top player, they know it doesn't matter who you're playing, you're fighting for an advantage. That's why I don't love this opening. So what can we learn from it? Well, let's just check out how these top players play it, but also how these top players messed up. Let's have a look. Erigaisi versus Pragnanda, two top players from India, in the quarterfinals of the World Cup. So we have e4, c5, c3. So one good thing about this opening is actually, if black just plays a normal move like knight c6 or d6, white already gets a fantastic position. You've already got the center. You haven't done anything special. That's why players play this opening from the white side. At a lower level, this can be a wonderful setup. If you're just starting out chess, I suggest you play the c3 Sicilian. Now, at the highest level, there are so many ways to counter this response, and Pragnanda attacks the pawn. Arjun goes forward, knight's out, and then strike in the center. When you look at this position, it looks pretty good. 2 pawns for white, but the whole point of this setup is that black needs to win, or else Prag will be out of the World Cup. Not only that, this is the normal opening lines anyway. You're going to break open the center, hit the knight. A normal move is actually to defend the knight, and then bishop here, castle. Knight actually retreats here. It attacks the bishop. You block the pin, and then knight c3, you must defend the bishop. Here's actually a cool moment. If you take, you go e6. Then you actually recapture with the bishop. If bishop out to f4, knight d5, you hit the bishop, it drops back, and then winning tactic, that bishop is actually loose, check. Hitting bishop and king. So it's a really cool opening trap. Let's go back a tiny bit. Back to the game. Knight c3, you defend the bishop. Take, now g6. Castle, queen e2, and h3. Cool move because you need to stop the bishop coming out. You can see the blue arrows, we need to defend the central point. Prag attacks it again with queen c7. So you need to defend it again with bishop to f4. So rooks come to the center. Looks like Arjun is on his way to the next stage of the World Cup. But that's the dangerous thing. You're just hoping for a draw, trying to swap pieces off. That's why this opening is not seen often at the highest level. And it shouldn't be. If this is the normal nature of this opening, why are we swapping off pieces when you have the white pieces? Got to keep fighting for an advantage. Rook c1. So knight comes to the center, looking pretty good, on the way to a draw. But you guys know, why on earth would William show a boring draw in a YouTube video? No way. Something's going to happen. So knight d4, pieces coming off, but doesn't actually work out. Taking with the knight actually led to a disadvantage. If you take with the bishop, it's actually much better. And then you just try to hold the center. Now this bishop looks amazing, so black can keep playing. But in the game, knight takes happen. Now bishop c4, you guys might be thinking, well, you just keep swapping off pieces, it's a draw. Hopefully it's a draw pretty soon. Carlsen Erigaisi goes through to the next stage of the World Cup. Not today. Bishops come off. Rooks come off. But after this entire sequence, the b2 pawn drops. Now this isn't so bad because white's pieces are active. But not only that, e6 is a really strong move. You don't want to take because now, well, everything hangs. White might be doing well. Got to sort that bishop out first. Here, maybe drop the bishop back, and then this queen is just so active. No way was this going to happen. Prag plays a wonderful retreating move. Queen f6. You attack the pawn, forcing a decision. This bishop can retreat. That's exactly what happened. If you do this, you got this brilliant move. Queen takes to recapture the pawn, and then both the queen and the bishop are under attack, so there is no time. This capture might happen, and black is up a pawn. Let's go back a tiny bit. So this actually happened, but now we get this really ugly situation where Prag gets doubled e-pawns. You got a pawn versus c pawn, and black is the one playing for a win. So you hold the bishop on that square because you could not have moved it, or else you drop the pawn. You could not move it or else the a pawn drops. And can you see this entire game? Arjun, who's one of the best players in the world, had to change his style. Why is he playing for a draw? Because that's all he needs. A draw, and then he's through to the next stage of the World Cup. But it's not his style. It's not any of these top players' style to play for a draw. Yeah, how do chess experts handle this opening? Well, in the World Cup, they actually handled it badly. You might be thinking, how dare William say this about these top players? Well, I'm just someone talking about this on YouTube. But there's an inconvenient truth to what I'm saying. Bishop e5, bishop d6. I love this move because it's just holding the fort. You're just holding all the central pawns together and you're just ready to get them rolling. e5, king e6, you hit the rook, it goes to b7 because it has to defend the bishop. And the king has found its way in time against the white king right in the center. Black is doing so well. Push. Push, push. You're just slowly advancing. You're basically tied down. You can never move this bishop or else the pawn drops. If you ever go here, the rook, oh yeah, it's actually still defended, so nothing happens. You just hold it. So the king is on d5, and now after the king moves to c3, well, it's running out of moves anyway. King to c3. What if this? Get the pawns rolling. Interesting. Here, and then what? Just push. Maybe push one of these. Even rook can go back to g8. Interesting. Here, and then here. Oh, I see. And then that drops. That's really interesting. Let's go back a tiny bit. King c3 was played, but this allowed e4 now. Pawns come off. So what's happening now? King c4. King b5. It's a race. It's a race. The king might come into b7, but this king is just so active, going to take the g2 and h3 pawns. Bishop b6, push, really cool decoy. If you take, then that pawn drops. Pair of bishops have been offered. Take, rook c5, rook g8. Cool move. And then cool move. Absolute class. This is just a really fine point. Normally, this move is possible. It's just a normal tactic to look out for in your own games, because if you take, you can get a queen, right? If you take, you can get a queen, right? Wrong, because that's check. That's the problem. The king has to move, and then you can actually go back to stop. That's why in this position, Arjun actually goes king a6. But you just push. King b7, push. He's worked out. White can actually block with the rook, but it turns out both sides get queens. Unfortunately, black has so many pawns. Pair of rooks come off. It's a pawn race where there is no race. You're down 3 pawns. You are down 3 pawns. You keep blocking with the queen. You're still up 2 pawns, and you are ready to get 2 future queens. Push. Check, 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 and push. And all the squares are guarded, except for e1. But so what? That pawn is just 1 square away from queening. Check, block, check, check, check. So what? And here, what's a cool moment? Yeah, just a little bit of class, really. I don't think it was necessary, but I think that's an absolutely class move. Allowing a pawn to hang with check. The game is so close, right? The game is so close. Wrong. You get checked. With this check, you force the queens to come off, and then you lose. Let's go back a tiny bit. Check. Force it home. Check. So what? So what? So many ways to block, and that is an absolute class finish. You check. The king moves, and then you get a queen. This is not how to play. All you needed was a draw, and you played a drawish opening. But part 2 of the video, we're going to see how Magnus handles it. On the previous day, he beat Gukesh with the black pieces, destroying, outplaying Gukesh, in London. So he goes for a c3 Sicilian again, because he only needs a draw with white. Many ways to respond. Those 2 are not the best ways. That's okay. That is what Prag did, and Gukesh plays one of the best ways, which is to strike in the center. Now, the reason this strike is really good is because the knight can't actually go to c3 to attack the knight. To attack the queen, This is really what happens in the center counter. Get the center. Knights come out. Now, knight a3 is a really clever way to play, going into b5 and c7. That was not chosen today. Bishop e2, normal move. Pair of pawns come off. This is exactly what's needed for black to play for a win. Isolated pawn. The difference in pawn structure means black can play for a win. Castle, and now you hit the queen. It drops back. You hit the queen again. It drops back, and now bishop f4, eyeing c7. Cool move by Gukesh, where you attack the bishop and you guard the c7 square. The bishop drops back, and now castle, rook c1. So all the pieces are in the game. Pawn structure is imbalanced. That is what is needed to play for a win. If Gukesh, with the black pieces, doesn't win, he's out of the World Cup. Bishop d7 ready to kick the knight away. And for the life of me, I don't understand chess. Why didn't he just put the knight in the center and then we get this amazing bishop? Now, black might be ready to counter it. Queen might come out. Pawns might slowly roll down the board. But this just looks really good. So I just don't understand chess, why this didn't happen. Magnus actually chose to retreat the knight. Queen comes out, and this move, when the queen attacks this pawn, the boring move, the predictable move, is to play a move like queen d2 where you defend. No, you counterattack, and it's the best move. Bishop to c4. Because if you take this pawn, then Magnus is going to take in the center, and then we get this amazing starfish bishop controlling so many squares. Black is... white is totally fine, I mean. Let's go back a tiny bit. So bishop c4, Gukesh has to win. He drops the knight back, keeping lots of pieces. So queen e2 is one choice, just improving the setup, and then the queen defends the pawn. But I really like this move, double attack. Double purpose move, I mean, where you attack the queen and you defend the b2 pawn. Queen a5, and now knight c5. Double exclamation mark. Why not? Pretty cool move. Nice tactical moment. Nice tactical point to it. Take, take, and now you come in and you win a bishop for a rook. That's why it's such a cool moment, and Gukesh had to play this tragic looking move, but he has to win. Retreat the bishop, keep pieces on a3, class move. So same thing, guys, we can't take because it's the same thing. The bishop still comes here. It's like nothing's changed. So if we go back to this moment, a3, really cool move from Magnus, going to get space with b4. Queen goes back to d8. So last two moves have been two ugly retreating moves, but he has to make it. Bishop to b5 was played here to attack the knight, but bishop to d3 is a cool tactical moment. Just want to show you this normal idea. This loses. Look out for these ideas in these isolated pawns, where one side has a pawn in the center, but you can't actually take it because you just lose the queen. Take, take, the queen is under attack, check, and then you pick up the queen. Normal Greek gift tactic. Let's just go back a few moves. Bishop back. Bishop to b5, I don't love that move. Also, if here, that's a cool moment. Gorgeous looking knights, and it's the same motif. So it's okay to give your opponent this pawn because I'm going to Greek gift you. I'm going to sack my bishop, and then I'm just going to put my queen in center. This position looks absolutely gorgeous for white. Let's just go back a few moves here. Bishop b5, and now a4. So you defend the bishop, but this square is now available for black. Rook d8, queen e2, and now rook d5. So when I saw this position, I was asking why not take in the center. Take, take, absolutely brilliant retreating move. Knight back to b3. Why? You hit the rook. If you go back, you lose. Not only that, you lose this way. The queen is actually trapped. And one more motif, if you go here, hitting the queen, looks like the queen has to move, and then black might buy yourself some time. Oh, what a move, what a tactic. You just give up the queen for the knight temporarily because it's trapped. It is trapped. Bishop c7, and you can see I've got, how many green circles have I circled? 11, I think. Yeah, all squares covered. Best move here for black. Well, the queen can't actually move, so we take, and then white is winning. White is up a rook for a bishop. So that's an absolutely stunning sequence. Absolutely stunning. Let's go back a tiny bit. So queen e2, rook d5, putting pressure 3 ways. Take, and now b3. Magnus wants to hold the structure, but can you see, just like in the first game, Arjun, the plan is to just keep swapping off pieces and hope. You want to break the pressure, you want to liquidate the pressure, and then it'll be a draw. That's why overall this is just not the right opening. If you want to draw, do not play for a draw. If you want to draw, you just play normally. Rook d8, bishop h4. So it's another swap. That's why this type of chess doesn't suit anyone. This is not how you play chess. And you might be thinking, how dare William say this about Magnus, about Carlsen Erigaisi? You're right. I have no right to say this. But there's no point swapping off pieces when you play chess. Unless you transform. You go from one advantage to another. Rook e1. So knight comes back. Another trade. And then something bad happens, really. We get this perfect situation for Gukesh where he's gone in balance. Bishop for knight. Bishop is amazing. Pawn structure is imbalanced. That pawn is weak forever. Rooks in the center and pawns are hanging. And also the king is a bit weak, but it can always shuffle over. There could be some attacking chances. Queen up. Why? Queen to f4, maybe queen to h6. Rook c8. Get the open file. Now h3. Why? Because he wants to go knight h2. Why? Because he wants to go knight g4. So cool rerouting there. No way do you trade because you just help black. You fixed his pawns. And that pawn is weak forever. This bishop is absolutely brilliant. No way do you trade queens and hope and pray for a draw. No way. King g7, ready to attack the knight. a5, absolutely brilliant move. I was listening to the commentary between Peter Lecco and David Howell at this moment. a5 is an absolutely stunning move where Magnus understands the fact that he needs to swap off pawns on the left. Then his drawing chances will increase after a5. This is a blunder. We can all blunder mate in a few moves. Check. The king is boxed in, check. And the queen and knight, they work too well against the king. You can't go in the corner because of the queen, and then it is mate on f7. So we can all blunder these kind of tactics. I feel it's really important to show these tactical moments in the games. Now, these top players, they will never miss these tactics, but you and me can. I need to show them. a5, queens come off. Very accurate moment here to take with the knight, or else the knight is forever out the game. Now, why did he take with the knight? Because Magnus wants to swap everything off. If you take with the pawn, that pawn is now under attack. You might be thinking, why not grab it? This pawn is under attack because we counter attack. It doesn't matter about this pawn because this pawn is going to drop. And if you defend it, I mean, that knight looks like an absolute tragic piece. And now you swing over. Black's rooks are so active. This bishop is absolutely brilliant. You are up a pawn. The rook can even swing over. That knight is so inactive. That pawn is weak. This is perfect. Magnus understands this fact, and in this moment he took back with the knight. It's okay to be down a pawn. And the funny thing is, you remember this isolated pawn which he got on move 6. It drops. Can you see the entire strategy of playing this opening is not actually a good one? So how do chess experts play this opening? They don't. They don't actually play that well. That's the funny thing. If you want to draw, do you play for a draw? No. You just play a normal style chess. And Magnus, I don't remember the last time he lost with white pieces. He's so close to losing. Except he isn't. He's worked out. So rook takes pawn. Take. Hit the bishop. It's so important. I know I said it before, but I'll say it again. In the endgame, got to have pawns on the same side because then your attention is very focused. You know how to draw it on one side of the board. Magnus understands this fact. Rook c7. You keep an eye on the bishop. You attack the pawn. The left side, the queen side, is about to disappear. Take. This fact is so important. You cannot put the rook there because the knight actually guards the square. Magnus has worked this out. So that pawn, there's no good way to defend it. So you have to trade it. And when this happens, the entire left side, the queen side, has disappeared. Your efforts are now focused on the king side. It's 3 against 4. Knight for bishop. Is this enough for Magnus to draw? We will see. Rook a5. Cool tactical moment here. If you go f5, because you need to get your pawns rolling, kabam. Tactics in the endgame. Tactics all over the place, and you can't go here because the knight actually guards the d1 square. So let's go back a bit. So king up. So then now f5 is a threat, and Magnus freezes the structure. g4. 3 pawns against 4. If you can't stop black's pawns moving, it's a draw. Hit the bishop. Get the king in. Get the pawns rolling. And Magnus gets the king in, freezing the structure again. You cannot take because you drop your bishop. f6, because e5 check is a threat. So if you play the wrong move, like h4, that check, I think it's just losing. Yeah, that's losing, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is. Check, and then you just take this one. Oops. Yuck. We can all blunder in one move. That's why f6 is almost a winning move, but Magnus has the drawing move. Check. Take with the bishop. Take. Stop black going after that pawn. You block it with f3, and yeah, the efforts are all on the king side. They're all focused on one side of the board. Magnus is able to draw this. I love this move where you just bring the rook back, and then any check, you are actually totally safe on the second rank. Just a little bit of class. Just waiting around, nothing's going to happen. Check, come back to the second, defend, and then a draw was offered here, and it was taken. If you ever come in, you just get checked. And if you go to the wrong spot, that pawn drops, and if you go to another spot, I keep checking. If here, I just go back. And a draw was agreed. There is no way through for black because the rook is too active. Even if you're not careful, you might go after that pawn, but there's never ever any need. You just keep checking the king, forcing Gukesh's king back, and he is out of the World Cup. So how do chess experts play this opening? They don't. They don't actually play it that well in the World Cup. So my advice, if you want to draw in a must draw situation, well, so then you are through to the next stage. If you want to draw, never play for a draw. Just play your normal chess and see what happens. In the semi-finals of the World Cup, we have Magnus Carlsen versus Nijat Abasov, who's having the tournament of his life. And in the other semi-final, we have Fabiano Caruana versus Pragnanda. Welcome to the FIDE Chess World Cup. I'll see you later.